Hello, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. It is great to see all of you out there. Hi, Jennifer. There
Hey,
are a lot of people out there waiting for us. Hi, guys. I'll just throw out a few names. T-Bone's with us, Rich Diana, Susan Fortier, Old Sage Joe, Lightning Rod from Canada. And hi, Kim. Thank you for moderating. And Tom Hall, Jeffrey Pearson, Midas Ken, Lisa, my gosh, Kay Ryan, Keith Hayes, Vegomatic. All right. Listen, Earl Larson, we are ready to roll. Gary Hoover, Christopher Spavins. Hi, Don Mercell. Yes, he's on Facebook, probably the only one. Melanie. Hi, Melanie. Karen Reese. We love you. All right. Now that I've done the shout out, Truly Aghast is here. Let's go, Jennifer. Let's get everybody started. And you know what? We're starting with something to piss everybody off. But why don't you give the 50,000 mile up view?
okay. Hey, guys. So good to share with you tonight. We've got a great show lined up for you. So, first up, as you can see, we've got an article Bill Gates and Elon Musk. uh, Bill Gates says he's given more to climate than Musk, who replies, sigh.
I think these guys get the flush to begin with.
Oh, shoot. No kidding, right?
Sorry.
Totally.
All right, well, let's do it. We did it early. It's
hmm
called flushes interruptus or
Yeah,
premature flushes.
flush us and interrupt us, guys.
All right.
Okay, so then next up, we've got the Bonn Climate Change Conference next week, set to set tone for COP27 in Egypt. So at the June sessions, discussions will take place on a range of important topics, including greenhouse gas emission reductions, adapting to climate impacts. There you go. And then we've got one up from the National Snow and Ice Data Center in Boulder, Colorado. The ice,
Boulder.
I just had to say that, right? The
Yes.
icy, the Arctic Sea Ice News and Analysis. So this has some various maps and graphs and stuff like that. And then we're going to turn our minds to the Arctic news, and there is a brand new out just today cataclysmic alignment, record high carbon dioxide. So we're going to talk about the CO2 emissions and the levels that it's hitting now. Then we've got a really good pictorial about the
Oh, yeah.
permafrost. Really good pictorial. Thawing permafrost is roiling. That's actually a word, roiling the Arctic landscape, driven by a hidden world of changes beneath the surface as the climate warms.
All right.
And then we've got another one. Oh, this is the one with the pictorial, the
Oh,
Euro
we've got
News
a packed
screen.
show.
Oh, that thing is great. This one also about the permafrost. Will more mouths to hell? You guys know what that thing is. It's that big that thing that's
That
falling
thing.
apart. Really
That
big
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Will
that
more
thing.
mouths to hell open up because of climate change? We asked a permafrost expert. And then if we get to it, we'll see, because as you can see, we've got a pretty action packed show. We
Yeah.
will finish up with an article from the New York Times. Carbon dioxide levels are highest in human history.
Or this
Humans
one too. We remember we had this one too. The amounts of mercury in permafrost. Oh my God. We might have to save that one.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what a show. What a
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, humans pumped 36 billion tons of planet warming gas into the atmosphere in 2021. 36 billion tons in 2021, more than in any previous year. It comes from burning oil, gas, and coal, just in case there's any doubt. So,
Okay.
Sandy, we are ready.
All right.
Ready. We
Well,
are ready
I'll
to
take
take it
this
away.
one since
Yeah,
I
please.
thought we would start off with a laugh, you know.
Look at those jerks.
All right. So
Jesus.
these two mature billionaires uh are having a little lover spat. And Bill Gates told YouTuber Hugh Decrypt, is it Decrypt? Decrypt. Here, we're starting already with this. He gave a lot more money to climate change than Elon Musk. And Musk said he refused philanthropy from Gates because of a multi-billion-dollar bet against Tesla. The Tesla CEO replied, sigh, to Gates' best defense on his climate change record. And
Oh
Tesla bet.
my God.
Oh, yeah, fun, huh?
Oh
So
my God.
Elon Musk and Bill Gates. Now, let me see. Maybe can make this bigger. All right. Elon Musk and Bill Gates have continued their war of words, which actually I'm good. This is what they're going to get. This. We're going to give them a gong hit. Boom. They're having a war of words. And over Gates's reported multi-billion-dollar bet against Tesla as Musk questioned the Microsoft co-founder's defense. In an interview with French YouTuber Hugo Decrypt, there we go, Decrypt, Gates defended his record on climate change philanthropy and questioned the benefit of electric vehicles. I give a lot more to climate change than Elon. It's like, nah. Gates said,
God.
I give a lot of philanthropic dollars. I back companies. You know, electric cars are about 60. Jennifer, are you okay there? 16% of emissions. So we also need to solve that other 84%. He added, but somebody shorting the stock doesn't slow him down or hurt him in any way. Responding to an extract of the interview on Twitter in which Gates defended his position, Musk simply replied, sigh. So there was their little thing, and I don't know. I'm not going to play it, but Gates says Tesla's
You
done a
do.
fantastic job. I give a lot more money to climate change than Elon Musk or anyone else. Elon, does a great job, but somebody shorting the stock doesn't slow him down or hurt him in any way. So Musk said he refused a philanthropic donation from Gates because the Tesla CEO heard he had a $500 million short or bet against the company, which Musk said meant Gates wasn't serious about climate change. The SpaceX and Tesla boss initially confirmed leaked texts in April showed an exchange between the pair, with Musk since saying the rise in Tesla's share price meant the bet was now worth $2 billion. The net worth of both has fallen by billions this year as stock markets slide. Oh, really? As stock markets slide over fears about rising inflation.
Oh no!
Oh, and and interest rates and the prospect of a recession. That doesn't hurt them. In the interview, Gates also said he hasn't joined Musk, Amazon founder Bezos, and Virgin Group founder Richard Branson's space race because he was more concerned with tackling illnesses such as measles and malaria. Isn't that Trump's wife? Isn't that Trump's wife?
Melania.
Sorry.
Malaria.
Oh my God, I thought it was. Oh boy, I really screwed that one up. Sorry, Melania, Malaria, Mahulia, whatever your name is.
Uh,
Okay, so how are we doing out there in the chat with you guys? You guys having fun with this one? So I think we're going to get a little more serious now. You know that everything that's been going on with Davos happened, and then in Stockholm there was uh, uh, a thing, and today is
mhm.
World Environment. Is it Environmental Day? World Environmental Day. I think that's what it is. I had something because we have a video for the intermission that'll tell all about World Environmental Day,
Oh
and
my.
I think I'm going to hand this one now over to you, Jen.
Oh,
They're already gearing up for COP27.
oh boy, get
Oh
ready. Hang on
boy.
to your seats. So, the
Yeah.
Bonn climate.
That's us. We love kitties.
Yes, we love
All
kitty.
right.
All right. The Bonn Climate Change Conference next week to set the tone for COP27 in Egypt. In the June sessions, discussions will take place on a range of important topics, including greenhouse gas emission reductions, adapting to climate impacts. All right. So, the upcoming Bonn Climate Change Conference is set to kick off next week in the World Convention Center in Bonn, Germany, and is designed to prepare the UN Climate Change Conference, COP27, which is scheduled for November this year in Egypt. The conference will go on until June 16th. COP27 in Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt, will build on the positive outcome of
Oh.
last year's UN climate change conference,
Oh.
COP26 in Glasgow. Okay. Scotland, which finalized operation details of the Paris Agreement and identified work going forward in key areas of mitigation, adaptation support, particularly finance and loss and damage. The meeting will take place against a backdrop of accelerating climate impacts and geopolitical tension. UN Climate Change Executive Secretary Patricia Espinosa called governments not to be deterred. Quote, climate change is not an agenda we can afford to push back on our global schedule. We need decisions and actions now, and it is incumbent on all nations to make progress in Bonn. Espinosa noted that to implement the commitments made to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal of the Paris Agreement, the world has a significant workload ahead, but also a great deal to build on. But ambition must urgently be raised to avoid the worst impacts of climate change, and immediate action is needed, read the statement by the UN Climate in its press release. Currently, the world is on track to more than double the 1.5 Celsius goal of the Paris Agreement by the end of the
Oh
century.
boy.
What does that
And
mean? Does that mean we're going
double.
for a 3.0 goal now? What does it
I
mean? I don't
I
understand.
don't know. I think it might be mean this. I do.
I have no idea what that means. We'll have to read more. Quote, COP27 in Egypt needs to focus on implementation. There, nations must show how they will, through legislation, policies, and programs, and throughout all jurisdictions and sectors, begin putting the Paris Agreement into practice in their home countries, the UN top climate change official said. Quote, in Egypt, all sectors of the economy and society need to tangibly show that they recognize the magnitude of the climate emergency we face and are taking bold, concrete steps backed by specific plans to deliver the urgent and transformational climate ambition we simply must see before it's too late,
Late.
she added, casually added. At the June sessions, discussions will take place on a range of important topics, including greenhouse gas emission reductions, adapting to climate impacts, and providing financial support for developing countries to cut emissions and adapt to climate change. The chair of the Subsidiary Board for Scientific and Technological Advice, SBSTA, whoa, it's a
Ooh.
mouthful of alphabet soup,
Spopsa.
Tosi Manupanu.
Okay.
Tosi
Manabado. Manu.
Panu. Wow,
Yeah.
that's like two last names that are identical or something. Expressed confidence that despite the particularly difficult geopolitical context this year, climate change remains very high on the agenda of governments. Quote, climate change is the biggest threat to life and livelihoods we face. We
Yes.
need to underline that climate change is the biggest issue of our time. In the last months, we have seen a lot of eagerness from governments to get down to work in Bonn. We have seen a lot of work at workshops and other events. There is great appetite to make progress.
Well,
So
there you
that's
go.
that. I don't know,
So they
Sandy.
they want to
I
make
mean,
progress, and it's
mm,
every single year. I won't be a naysayer. We have until when is it? In November? Is it November? I think it's November.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
Boy,
yeah,
we
I
just
think so.
we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
I was watching the people I call them the capitalists. We don't have time,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they were having their thing on YouTube, and I of course I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on, and their technological utopias are
Hmm.
moving along. And of course carbon capture is a big thing, which to me, I don't know, carbon capture's like gives me a headache. Oh, all right. Well, we're going to move on. I think you guys are all
Hmm.
doing well out there. Let's move on. Jennifer, I'm going to let you maybe do a little review
Okay.
of what's going on here.
Okay. All right. So let's take a look. This is from the Arctic Sea Ice News and Analysis from the National Snow and Ice Data Center,
Hmm.
NSIDC.
Yes.
And let's see, let's look at the first image, the daily image update, the sea ice concentration. That really shows you
Oh, that's
where
extent.
the ice is, the sea ice concentration, the second
Yeah,
one there,
this one.
the extent, yeah. I mean, it's
Well,
June, so
yeah.
there's still a long way to go in the melt season, but the sea ice concentration is kind of interesting because that shows you where the ice is really softening. And what we can see there is it's really softening up in the Barents and up in the Laptev Sea and all along kind of where you would expect along the edges. It's kind of softening. It's springtime in the Arctic. Arctic spring melt has begun. Ice extent declined most substantially in the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk. I don't
Ooh,
even
yeah.
know about that sea. Okhotsk. Overall, decline was slower than average through the month. So, the overview of the conditions, we'll just read this one paragraph
Hmm.
and then we'll probably move on, Sandy.
Yep.
The average Arctic sea ice extent for April was 14.06 million square kilometers. This was 630,000 square kilometers
Good.
below the 1981 to 2010 average and ranked 11th lowest in the 44-year satellite record. So we're not getting the low sea ice extent that we have
No.
in years past. And I have a feeling it might be because of the La Nina that is currently in
Oh,
play,
yeah.
because that makes things cooler. Extent declined slowly through the beginning of the month, with only 87,000 square kilometers of ice loss between April 1st and April 10th. The decline then proceeded at an average pace for this time of year through the remainder of the month. Reductions in sea ice extent during April occurred primarily in the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk.
Yeah, it's
Other regions,
Okuksk. That's
Okhotsk.
yeah. Lightning Rod had put the
Is you know where
where
it is?
where is it? He had it. Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
here it is. Ok Okutsk, Okutsk. We're getting
Yes.
better.
Well, I don't know. Some days we are.
I know.
I'm
We
not sure I'm
try.
getting better. I
We
fake it
try.
better. I
We
fake
try.
it. The
Okay.
other regions had small losses at most. The southern Barents Sea lost some ice, but the channel of open water in north of Novaya Zemlya that persisted for much of the winter closed during April. Okay. So overall, the daily sea ice extent tracked just below the interdecile range for the
Oh,
month.
that's
So
all right.
Novaya Zemlya finally closed up. That's always such an easy one to see. So, we're
There's
not that far off from the full ice extent. June, it's we've only been in the melt season, just like a little over a month and a half or so, you know?
I just love their graphics and their graphs. And look at
Yeah.
this one where the
Let's see.
slideshow where they're showing the animation,
Oh.
or the openings in the ice cover that formed in the Chukchi Sea from April 12th to the 30th. And there was offshore winds over the northwest coast of Alaska led to formation of these polynyas. Very interesting. Isn't that cool?
Okay. It is. It really is. So interesting.
We love the Arctic. And then of course, we could go through we could sit on this one website for the whole show and
There's
and
a lot of graphs in
yeah,
here. A
there's a
lot,
lot
lot,
of
lot of
graphs, and
graphs.
everybody that knows us knows that we love graphs. But anyway, we're going to take our applause and
Yeah.
move on because even
Yeah.
though this is such an excellent website, we have to move on to the Arctic
We
news.
do. We do. And all the links will be in the show notes. So you can always go
Absolutely.
back and read all of the articles again
Uh
and
huh.
again.
Again and
All
again,
right.
again and
Again
again.
and again.
All right. So I think this one also I'm going to give to you to start because you are definitely more suited than I am for this.
Okay, well, let's
Let's
see
go.
how we do.
All
So we'll
right.
just kind of breeze through this. There's a lot of really good graphs in this article. So this just came out today, guys.
Yep.
Cataclysmic alignment. So let's see what he's talking about. Record high carbon dioxide. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere just broke two records. Oh, good. Yay, team.
Two
Carbon
records.
dioxide was 421 in the week starting May 22nd at Mauna Loa, while CO2 was 420 in May for 2022. So basically, we are up in the 420 parts per million
Yep.
range now with carbon
Oh yeah.
dioxide, which is very, very scary. And as you can see, the trend is up. That's,
Just wonder
all I
if I
can
can
say.
open up this one a little bit more. See, there we go. How
Yeah.
it 2022. There we go. We can see definitely in this graph.
Oh,
That's why I
yeah.
made this one
Oh, yeah.
bigger. That's why I made this one bigger so that we could really look at the trend
Well,
lines up.
absolutely. And it's so interesting, isn't it? How the annual cycle. Can you go back to that graphic?
Absolutely. I sure can. Where the hap what happened? Okay, here we go.
All right. So it's so interesting how that graphic has an annual cycle, and basically when all the leaves are let's see, when does it, like, in the beginning. I guess carbon dioxide goes up every year a little bit, and it seems
Every
to go
year.
up a little bit more every year. So even the amount that it goes up is going up.
Even
So
the
that's
amount that,
the
yeah. Yeah.
well, yeah, like the part it goes up, it keeps
Mm-hmm.
like getting bigger, bigger, bigger. So
And
yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to come down.
Oh, it will
And it's not
eventually.
funny. Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
eventually, like, what? How many millions, billions, billions of years?
I don't know.
Billions
We
of
won't
years.
be here to see it.
No, we won't.
Unfortunately, we will
No.
have caused the demise of our species. Yay, team.
Yay, team.
So, earlier, very high daily and hourly measurements were recorded at Mauna Loa as illustrated. We've just been talking about that, showing 1 hourly measurement of 424. So they got a high of 424 parts per million now. So that's pretty amazing. So
All right.
CO2 approaching at Barrow, Alaska. So, they all kind of look somewhat similar. Do they have a methane? Oh, yes, they've got loads of methane. The methane graphs are getting very hard to read because they're all either pink and red and nothing else.
Well, maybe we
Um,
need to complain to Sam and
well,
company.
maybe he needs to get like more colors because all it looks like is a big smear of methane in the
Let's
kind
see
of
if it'll go bigger.
middle latitudes.
All
And
right. Well, this is the CO2. And let me see if I can. You want me to pull up this and let's see if we can make it look a little bit
uh,
better?
no,
A
I mean
little
it
bit
is what
better.
it is.
The mixing ratio.
It's just a big smear. The pink is higher than the red, and that's what you got to realize. There's not even hardly any orange. I think they have to take all these other colors off. It's just like they're never going to be there. It's
Ah, I
they
see
got
what
to
you're
take
saying.
off the blue because it's just never going to be in the blue range again. Maybe just to kind of give us an idea of how bad we've gone, you know.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah. But in any case, methane is high, carbon dioxide is high, and they're predicting an El Nino. So El Ninos typically occur every 3 to 5 years, according to NOAA, and illustrated in the NOAA image below. I don't know if you see that, Sandy. So the upcoming El Nino can be expected to occur soon. And they're actually saying that this upcoming El Nino is going to correspond with a lot of sunspots. So the solar cycle
Oh,
is going to be cresting with a lot of sunspots,
really? You mean
as well
sunspots like
as
sunspots from? Okay,
sunspots from
sorry.
the sun.
I know. I have sunspots. Sorry, sorry.
Not
I'm
suns.
punchy.
It's all right. You've tilled the fields
Oh
today,
yeah.
Sandy.
Oh my
You've
God.
gotten
Yeah.
yourself a huge giant
Ooh, all the
potato field.
potatoes. Yeah, they're in. The potatoes.
Yeah.
The
That
potatoes. No
that
famine this year.
well, that's good. That's
Mm-mm.
good. Just take each year as it comes. But this is the whole thing that I want to emphasize. A huge temperature rise looks set to unfold soon. First of all, in the Arctic, triggered by the combined impact of the upcoming El Nino and a peak in sunspots.
Okay.
Sunspots are currently well above what NOAA predicted, as illustrated on the image at the right. You can see that.
This one.
Um,
The this. Let me.
the one
This.
that
Whoop.
says solar
Whoop. Whoop.
cycle,
Whoop.
the one that says
Okay.
solar cycle progression. Um, the
Where am
more
I?
sunspots, the more the temperature goes up. The rise in sunspots from May 2020 to July 2025 could make a difference in some areas
Whoop.
of 0.15 degrees C. So
All right.
the next El Nino look set looks set to line up with the high peak of sunspots in the that's why this is called the cataclysmic alignment. In a cataclysmic alignment that could push up the temperature enough to cause dramatic sea loss in the Arctic, resulting in runaway temperature rise by 2026.
No.
So that's
Wow.
pretty darn big. So he is predicting a huge temperature rise in the Arctic. There are many further indications that we're on the brink of a huge temperature rise in the Arctic. Ocean heat that enters the Arctic Ocean from the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean keeps rising. So this is coming in mostly from ocean heat, not air heat. As a result, several tipping points threaten to be crossed in the Arctic soon, as described in an earlier post that he wrote, including the latent heat tipping point and blue ocean event, starting when Arctic sea ice extent will fall below 1,000,000 kilometers. So, as the temperatures keep rising in the Arctic, changes to the jet stream look set to intensify, resulting in a loss of terrestrial albedo because all the ice is going to be gone except in certain places in the Arctic that could equal the albedo loss resulting from sea ice decline. Further feedbacks include permafrost degradation, both terrestrial and on the seafloor of the Arctic Ocean, which looks set to cause huge releases of greenhouse gases, particularly CO2, carbon dioxide, CH4, methane, and N2O, nitrous oxide.
Nitrous oxide.
Or nitrogen oxide. So overall, net, what does this mean? A global temperature rise? So they're saying another feedback is this would turn more water vapor to enter the atmosphere because as it gets hotter, more water vapor goes into the atmosphere. In the Arctic, where vast amounts of methane are contained in sediments at the seafloor, where there is very little hydroxyl to break down the methane. So this keeps going. Let's see. This is an important paragraph. As temperatures keep rising, further self-reinforcing feedbacks will kick in with more ferocity, such as an increase in water vapor globally combined with a decrease in lower cloud decks, further increasing the temperature as described in the cloud feedback page. Again, they're talking about the cloud feedback, Sandy.
Yeah,
It's
which
definitely something
we
for
need
us
to, we say it, and then
Oh no,
by the end of the summer, we will be more proficient in our
no,
cloud knowledge.
we're talking about clouds each time. We're getting
No,
better. It's not
all right. I'm still behind.
no, no. We're getting very good with our cloud
Okay.
knowledge.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes. Although the global temperature rise could rise more than 18°C above pre-industrial, as illustrated. That's that bad
The
math.
image.
Oh, yeah, the image on the right from the extinction page. So, in conclusion, temperatures could rise strongly soon, driving humans extinct. Good news, guys.
Okay.
Now, Sam Carana is saying 4 years because he's saying humans extinct by 2026. I mean, I don't know.
We
Maybe.
take
I
it
just
with a
don't
grain of
see-
salt, of course.
I don't see that. I really
No, we
don't see
don't.
that.
So we'll
I
have to
don't
write
see that.
to Sam et al. And ask them what the hell are they doing here? Because did they
Oh,
really? Did they really ever? Or do they always give a number like that? Because we don't prognosticate. We don't
he
say
has
that.
been. He has been lately.
He
He's
has
been
been.
giving 2026. That's the whole thing about the math, right? That long thing, right? That
Yeah.
long, you see that long extinction graph there? You do the math. Now, the math is a little bit deceptive because he has
Mm-hmm.
2.28 that's already baked in where we are. And they say pre-industrial to 2020, that's 2.28. And then he added an extra zero point 0.5 extra
I
impact
see
of
it.
CO2. See that
Well, I
long
think it's
graph?
fucking scary.
It's
And
fucking scary. It's
yeah,
totally fucking
it's
scary.
fucking scary.
You know,
Yeah.
and the sulfate cooling loss, that's only going to happen if all the sulfates fall out of the air, aka civilization falls, because we're not going to stop
Yep.
burning coal. I mean, that's pretty clear. We're going to burn it all up because that's the way we are. So, that we don't have to add it in right now. Black and brown carbon, he gives 0.6 for that. I'm not sure what that is. Snow, ice, and wind ocean changes. We've been through this before, and I think that has mostly to do with albedo and loss thereof. Seafloor methane, if the seafloor methane goes off, that's 1.1 degrees extra if it goes off like a lot.
Or we have a
and
nuclear war, like Scott said.
and
Uh,
then the extra water vapor, never discount the obvious water vapor. There's going to be more and more and more water vapor into the atmosphere because as it gets hotter, it holds more water. It's just chemistry. It's just the way it works. And so that is pretty much absolutely 2.1.
mm,
With the
mm, mm,
extra
mm.
water vapor, it's going to give it kind of like a little blanket. And then the cloud
Wow.
feedback, and he says 8 degrees for the cloud feedback. Now, his point is clouds basically will stop forming at a certain when it gets too hot. His point is clouds are not going to be forming, and so you're not going to have clouds shading the land or the sea.
Mm,
And
mm, mm.
basically it's just not going to be it's just going to be pure sunshine wherever it is with no clouds, which let's hold on to your hats and let's see how it works out. But I mean, I don't know. Will humans be extinct by 2026? I'm going to say no. I mean, I'm going to say no. Definitely no.
I don't think so.
I
But
don't think so either.
we will continue with, following the materials that he
Yeah.
puts out, that the other scientists put out, and the what happens is somewhere in between, somewhere in there. But we're living it. So what
Mhm.
do? We live our best lives.
Always live your best life.
Always live your best life.
Life is a precious gift.
Mm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Life and love, guys.
Life and love.
All right,
We are
Sandy,
here
let's
for
move
life and
along.
love. Okay, we are going now to permafrost and or permamush, as Jennifer always astutely likes to call it, the permamush. Okay, I'll take this one, or I'll start it, and then we'll see. Across the Arctic, strange things are happening to the landscape. Massive lakes, several square miles in size, have disappeared in the span of a few days. Hillsides slump, ice rich ground collapses, leaving the landscape wavy where it once was flat, and in some locations, creating vast fields of large, sunken polygons. It's evidence that permafrost, the long frozen soil below the surface, is thawing. That's bad news for the communities built above it and for the global climate, which we all know here, but this is just a little, primer review. As an ecologist, okay, so this is written by Mark Lara from the University of Illinois. And as an ecologist, Mark studies the dynamic landscape. Oh, what a picture! Interactions and has been documenting the various ways permafrost driven landscape change has accelerated over time. The hidden changes underway there hold warning for the future. Wow, look at that picture. That's incredible.
It's fascinating how the water invades the permafrost like spikes, and it shows the whole thing, how these little polygons get carved out. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. Permafrost is perennially frozen soil that covers about a quarter of the land in the northern hemisphere, particularly in Canada, Russia, and Alaska. Much of it is rich with organic matter of long dead plants and animals frozen in time. These
Mm.
frozen soils maintain the structural integrity of many northern landscapes, providing stability to vegetated and unvegetated surfaces, similar to load bearing support beams in buildings. I like that, the way that was described. As temperatures rise and patterns of precipitation change, permafrost and other forms of ground ice become vulnerable to thaw and collapse. As these frozen soils warm, the ground destabilizes, unraveling the interwoven fabric that has delicately shaped these dynamic ecosystems over millennia. Wildfires, which have been increasing across the Arctic, have been increasing the risk. And under the surface, something else is active, and it is amplifying global warming. When the ground thaws, microbes begin feasting on organic matter in soil that have been frozen for millennia. These microbes release carbon dioxide and methane, potent greenhouse gases. As these gases escape into the atmosphere, they further warm the climate, creating a feedback loop. Warmer temperatures thaw more soil, releasing more organic matter for microbes to feast on and produce more greenhouse gases. Now, the evidence: disappearing lakes. Evidence of human caused climate change is mounting across the permafrost extent. The disappearance of large lakes, multiple square miles in size, is one of the most striking examples of recent patterns of northern landscape transitions. The lakes are draining laterally as wilder and deeper drainage channels develop, or vertically through taliks, where unfrozen soil under the lake gradually deepens until the permafrost is penetrated and the water drains away. Wow. There
Yeah.
is now overwhelming evidence indicating that the surface water across the permafrost regions is declining. Satellite observations and analysis indicate lake drainage may be linked with permafrost degradation. Colleagues and I found it increases with warmer and longer summer seasons, and that picture's pretty cool. Uh,
Mhm.
this is the soil drain, uh, a lake in the Arctic coastal plain of northern Alaska. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Mm. Yeah. And after it all drains and dries out, guess what? It becomes highly flammable.
Yes, that's another one. Another
Oops.
one. All right. So the insight came after some of the highest rates of catastrophic lake drainage that occurs over a few days due to permafrost degradation on record were observed over the past 5 years in northwestern Alaska. The disappearance of lake across the permafrost extent is likely to affect the livelihoods of indigenous communities as water quality and water availability, important for waterfowl and fish and other wildlife, shift. So the
Mhm.
slumping hills and polygon fields, look at that. The thaw and collapse of buried glacial ice is also causing hillsides to slump at increasing rates across the Russian and North American Arctic, sending soil, plants, debris sliding down slope. One new study in northern Siberia found that the disturbed land surface increased over 300% over the past 2 decades. Wow. Similar
Mm.
studies in northern and northwestern Canada found slumping there also accelerated with warmer and wetter summers. So this shows the thermokarst karst landscape erodes in Canada.
Wow.
Wow, these pictures are just really
Wow.
intense.
They're
We're gonna have
it's all just falling apart. Look at it. It's
Yeah, do I
rotting.
have a
It's
noise for
falling
this one?
apart.
This one is just like,
Oh,
yeah,
it's a
definitely.
big
It's just,
slumping slide.
it's falling apart. All right, so we're gonna move on, and in the flat terrain, ice wedges are able to develop, creating unusual geometric patterns across the land. Like, look at how that looks. In oh
Mhm.
wow, and that is
Look at
Nova,
this.
I can't say it. Noatak National Preserve in Alaska. The flat terrain, those ice wedges are able to develop, creating unusual geometric patterns and changes across the land. Over decades to centuries, melting snow seeps into cracks in the soil, building up wedges of ice. These wedges cause troughs in the ground above them, creating the edges of polygons. Polygon features The polygonal features naturally form as a result of the freezing and thawing process in a way similar to that seen at the bottom of drying mud flats. As
Mhm.
ice wedges melt, oh my, as ice wedges melt, the ground above collapses.
Mhm.
Look at that picture. Holy shit,
Mm,
these are really, really
mm.
good. Even in
They're really good
they
pictures.
are, they are. Even with my eyes watering like they are, I can still see it. Even in extremely cold, high Arctic environments, the impacts of only a few uncommonly warm summers can dramatically change the surface of the landscape, transitioning previously flat terrain into undulating as the surface begins to sink into depressions with the melting of ice in the soil below. Overall rates of ice wedge thawing have increased in response to climate warming. This is thawing pingo and polygons, a mound, and these are depressions formed by ice wedges in the northwest. This is Canada. Now,
Mhm.
I did not plan to play this. Why don't we skip it, because we do have two videos to show for our break
Mhm.
time. So we'll
Yeah.
skip this one. Across many Arctic regions, this thawing has been hastened by wildfire. In a recent study, colleagues and I found wildfires in the Arctic permafrost regions increased the rate of thaw and vertical collapse of the frozen terrain for up to 8 decades after
Hmm.
fire. Because,
Wow, 80
yeah,
years?
yeah. Uh-huh. So, I mean, I don't know. Will we
It
be around
increase
in
so you
80
have a
years?
fire and it's gonna increase the rate of thaw and vertical collapse for 80
Yeah,
years
from one
after the
fire.
fire. Oh my
Hmm.
god. Oh my god.
Because both climate warming and wildfire disturbance are projected to increase in the future. They may increase the rate of change in northern landscapes. The impact of recent climate and environmental change have also been felt at lower latitudes in the lowland boreal forest. There, ice rich permafrost plateaus, elevated permafrost islands, heated above adjacent wetlands, have rapidly degraded across Alaska, Canada, and Scandinavia. They can look like cargo ships filled with sedges, shrubs, and trees sinking into the wetlands.
Mm,
Now, why does this matter? Frigid temperatures and short growing seasons have long limited the decomposition of dead plants and organic matter in northern ecosystems. Because of this, nearly 50% of global soil organic carbon is stored in those frozen soils. The abrupt transitions we are seeing today, lakes becoming drained basins, shrub tundra turning into ponds, lowland boreal forests becoming wetlands, it will not only hasten the decomposition of buried permafrost carbon, but also the decomposition of above ground vegetation as it collapses into water saturated environments. Look at
mm,
this one. So,
mm.
isolated, sporadic, discontinuous, and continuous.
Yeah.
permafrost
So the
status.
dark blue, it takes your eyes kind of a minute to adjust to this, right? But the dark blue that we see there, that's Siberia. That's Siberia coming across
Hmm.
there, and Alaska on the other side. Greenland's always the easy thing to kind of pick out so you can orient yourself. But
Oh,
look at all of that permafrost in
it's like
Siberia. It's endless. It's endless.
endless.
There is some in Canada, in North America, in Alaska, but not anywhere near on the scale of what is in Siberia. Siberia is continuous
Mm.
permafrost.
Here's an
Oh my
interesting one.
God.
This is the decadal average ground temperature at the bottom of active layer are my eyes are bugging me. Arctic National Park Preserve in Alaska. And so this is showing 2000, the 2000 decade, and the difference, and see the temperature here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so these
There you
are,
go.
yeah, I can't see very
Is
well.
that in only what? Is that in only 10 years this difference has happened?
2000 to 2050, 2050. It's a 50-year difference,
Oh,
see?
50-year
50-year
difference. That's
difference.
huge. That is absolutely huge.
50-year difference. Yep.
Wow.
So let's finish this one. Climate models suggest impacts of such transitions could be dire. For example, a recent modeling study published in Nature Communications suggested permafrost degradation and associated landscape collapse could result in a 12-fold increase in carbon losses in a scenario of strong warming. Now, this is by the
12-fold
end. Yeah.
increase.
Well, by the end of the century, which is what, 2100, which
12-fold
is
increase.
when everybody, used to use 2100. So, yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Everything's faster than expected,
Previously
Snooky.
expected. This is, yeah. Even Michael Mann said that this week. So, all that, just my
Bastard.
aside here. The whole thing where he called us saying doom porn,
Bastard.
and then yeah, bastard, and then he said it this
Bastard.
week. If you I didn't, I should have ripped the video, but I didn't because I didn't think we'd want to all go. All right. So this is important because permafrost is estimated to hold twice as much carbon as the atmosphere today. The depths vary widely, exceeding 3,000 feet in parts of Siberia and 2,000 feet in northern Alaska, rapidly decrease and moving south. Fairbanks, Alaska averages around 300 feet. Now, where Jim lives, Fairbanks. 90 meters. Studies have suggested that much of the shallow permafrost, 10 feet, which is 3 meters deep or less, would likely thaw if the world remains on its current trajectory. And we know that that's happening. Because forget about that if. That's a
There's no
stupid
if.
if.
It's
No.
happening.
No. To add insult to injury in waterlogged environments lacking oxygen, the microbes produce methane, a potent gas. Well, we talk about methane ad nauseum. 30 times more effective at warming the planet than carbon dioxide, though it doesn't stay in the atmosphere as long. Oh, look at methane from thawing permafrost bubbles up in Sweden. Look at that. He's sitting with standing in blah, 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 blah. That
Mhm.
lovely, I always like this one. Yeah, that's the permafrost. That's our permafrost sound. Absolutely. So, how big of a problem thawing permafrost is likely to become for the climate is an open question. We know it is. Is this the hopium part? We know it is releasing greenhouse gases now, but the causes and consequences of permafrost thaw and associated landscape transitions are active research frontiers. So, one thing is certain the thawing of previously frozen landscapes will continue to change the face of high latitude ecosystems for years to come. For people living in these areas, slumping land and destabilizing soil will mean living with risks and costs, including buckling roads and sinking buildings. So that was a
Mm.
pretty wild one, and I'm glad that
Mhm.
I'm glad we chose that one, Jennifer.
Definitely.
It's and if and what would our show be like if we didn't talk about permafrost and methane and but this one,
It wouldn't
and
be like
I'm
it
gonna let
is.
it wouldn't be our show, but I am going to
Mm.
let you now take it over from me. And
Yeah.
this one has some good stuff. So take it away, Jen.
Yes. Indeed, indeed. So this also is about the permafrost. Will more mouths to hell open up because of climate change? We asked a
Mouse to hell.
we asked a permafrost expert. You may have seen photos of a cavernous chunk of land in Siberia recently, accompanied by headlines on the growing mouth of hell. The Bata Gaika, I hope, crater in Yakutia, Russia
Yakusha.
has recently entered the news again. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
Though there's no major update on its spread. Resembling the rocky outline of a stingray from above, this giant hole first formed in the 1960s when nearby forest clearances caused the underground permafrost to thaw and collapse. The indigenous Yakut people who live in the area have reported hearing strange booming sounds for years
Hmm.
as more chunks of frozen wall fall in. While the
Wow.
recovery of a 42,000-year-old extinct foal in 2019, preserved with liquid blood inside, has added to the mysterious aura and scientific possibilities of this site where worlds seem to collide.
Ooh, that's a scary one.
Ooh, look at this thing. It does look like a stingray, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Scary as it sounds, the most alarming facts lie not with the dimensions of the biggest abrupt thaw, as they're known. Instead, it is the rate at which other permafrost induced craters are forming in the Arctic and the huge stores of greenhouse gases they unleash that are worrying. Permafrost is any land that stays frozen all year, or more precisely, for 2 years straight.
Mm.
The northern permafrost region spans 15 million square kilometers, roughly 3 times the entire area of the EU plus the UK. Wow, 3 times that. Amazing. Wow. Its compact soils contain more carbon because the plants that grow during the Arctic summer are frozen into the permafrost before they can decompose. This means the region's frozen ground contains an estimated 1,500 billion tons of
Mm.
carbon. It is a staggering amount that equates to 3 times the mass of all living vegetation on Earth, explains Gustav Hegulius, a permafrost expert at Stockholm University. As the landscape heats up, microbes start feeding on the plant remains, producing CO2 and methane as byproducts. Hegulius co-authored a 2020 report which found that these abrupt thaws could double the impact of permafrost thaw accounted for in climate models, including those used by the IPCC. Oops. So they're saying the climate model is
Oops.
only half right. It's
I
twice as much.
still haven't got an oops.
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 I mean, they just kind of throw these things out as, well, by the way, also, this thing is 100% more than we thought. Oops. And go
Oops.
on as if no big deal. We spoke to the professor of physical geography, a member of the Permafrost Carbon Network. Look at that. There was a
Cool.
Permafrost Carbon Network. To understand more about the strange, concerning phenomenon. Look at these pictures, Sandy.
All right, let me get to them.
Look at these pictures,
Oops.
these walls, this stuff
They are
just
pretty wild,
falling
aren't they?
apart. Permafrost is not a uniform layer. It contains various amounts of accumulated sediments as well as pure ice, which accounts for as much as 70% in parts of Siberia. When heat starts to penetrate the ground, the ice melts and drains away, leading chunks of earth to cave in. Quote, we call it a positive feedback mechanism in climate science, explains Huglius. Once the collapse starts, ever more heat and water can penetrate into the permafrost, and you get more and more rapid process, which speeds up by itself. Oops. Permafrost composed of soil or bedrock doesn't melt, but thaws in the same way a chicken defrosts. Craters are forming more and more rapidly as a result of climate change, confirms Huglius. They can be triggered by fires, which are increasing as a result of global warming. Quote, if there's a naturally occurring fire that could trigger a crater to form, but then it would stabilize over time and the permafrost would regrow. This has been happening for thousands of years, the cycle of landscape changing, but we're speeding it up with our global warming. Huglius has seen similar thermokarst landforms on trips to Canada, where some studies have tracked a tenfold increase in the abrupt thaw formation following hotter summers over the last few years. Oh my goodness, thawing coastal permafrost in Arctic Canada. Wow.
What a shame. What a damn shame.
Oh my God. Permafrost is a sleeping giant. As well as being vast and full of carbon, it responds very slowly to changes in the environment. So we still haven't seen the permafrost wake up even to the warming that we've done so far. So he's saying basically permafrost is on a lag, just like the temperature for carbon dioxide is on a lag. It takes a little while for it to catch up, you know? If theoretically we stopped global warming in its tracks today, this is the thing we're always talking about on this show. What would happen if we stopped global warming in its tracks today? Kind of like a hypothetical if, which of course could never happen. But what would happen if we stopped global warming in its tracks today?
It's still going to be continuing, even if we stopped. There's,
yeah.
At
1.2 above pre-industrial levels, the permafrost would still keep thawing for up to 200 years.
Yeah, there
and
you
emitting
go.
greenhouse gases for a long time.
Wow.
Still, there's a world of difference between effective climate action and passing 1.5 degrees C of warming. A global average of 3C, where we're headed now. See, they're all admitting we're going to 3C and quick. The question is, what happens?
No.
What happens at 3C? You know, a global average of 3C, where we're headed now, actually means temperatures of 7C in the Arctic. So the Arctic will get, of course, twice as hot or more than the 3C. Much of this crucial frozen land will be stuck in a losing spiral, lumping 10 generations of humanity with the consequences of soaring emissions. Oh my God, look at this thing, Sandy. Look at all those trees in it. The trees are just falling in this hole.
Jesus.
Huglius is used to working with such stark scenarios, but finds his message especially striking at climate meetings with policymakers new to the science or where indigenous people from the Arctic are also present. It's a problem of both local concern as the foundations of homes and roads shake and rivers are poisoned by
Oof.
spikes of mercury from thawed permafrost, and global significance. The dramatic disfiguration of permafrost landscapes must be addressed at the highest policy level, Huglius says, demanding even more urgent climate action. Quote, you have to consider the country of permafrost. It will act as its own country and it will emit. So we have to include that in the budget. And it's not really been done yet.
No.
What?
Mm-mm.
It hasn't been done yet.
Should we take
Oh
our
my
break?
God. Yeah, let's take our break.
Let's take a break. Guys,
Let's
I
take
put
our
up what's
break.
going to happen to us behind me and Jennifer. But
Oh God.
yeah, that's what's going to happen to us behind us. But what we're going to do is we're going to take our little break now because we have a video and something that will get us back, and then we'll come back to this. I'm going to set this up. Let's watch this, and it's break time. All right, it's break time. This is all about World Environment Day today, and we're just taking that break.
Today is World Environment Day. The annual event is taking place in Stockholm today. The theme is Only One Earth, a timely reminder for us at this critical juncture that we need to take climate change seriously. Climate change has led to catastrophes across the globe. Tropical storms are becoming more dangerous and more frequent. As we speak, the American state of Florida grapples with severe flooding. Hurricane Agatha caused floods. This is the same hurricane which made landfall in Mexico 5 days ago. It also caused waterlogging in Cuba, where days ago before arriving in Florida. While storms are increasing, so are wildfires. Greek authorities evacuated parts of Athens as a fire approaches. Fires have become more common across the world, from America to Australia. Before COVID, the Australian bushfires of the 2020 were the biggest calamity that year. Increases in global temperatures have caused more fires, and South Asia is reeling under a heat wave. India saw its hottest March in 100 years. The heat wave still persists in the subcontinent. This has led to crops being damaged and producing lower harvests. India had to ban exports of wheat in light of this calamity. 1.5 degree is the critical point. The Paris Climate Agreement calls for countries to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. When global temperatures rise beyond this threshold, the chances of more devastating climate occurrences increases. We are already dangerously close to this limit. Will this World Environment Day help jolt us into action? That remains to be seen.
Which means lack of shear, even though we have it now, but that's typical in May to have shear. Over the Gulf of Mexico. Sometimes you don't have it, and that's how you get something to develop here, because you have not only above average water, but we also have deep ocean heat content. In other words, you go down 40 meters, 100 meters, and you could still have a hurricane with the kind of warm water that we have down through here. So the Caribbean, notorious, as we have with the loop current as well, in the Gulf Stream, for having some pretty deep, warm water in the ocean. So we're in La Nina. We talked about that. The forecast is to stay La Nina through the peak of the hurricane season, which is, August, September, October. And
Gem stuff.
All right, we appreciate that, Molly. And Atlantic hurricane season 2022 opens today right on cue. Tropical development, as we were just showing you, the potential of it impacting Florida on Saturday. It's one of two areas that we're watching in the Atlantic basin already.
Right, so, yeah, for the 7th consecutive year, NOAA is forecasting a hyperactive Atlantic season. Not surprising, given what we have out there. So let's find out what Ken Graham thinks of that. He's the director of the National Hurricane Center, and he joins us from Miami this morning. Ken, always great to talk to you. What do you think? More Cat 4s and 5s making U.S. landfalls in the past 5 years, more than the previous 50 combined.
It's wild.
What's going on here?
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I mean, Jim, you and I have seen each other at some of these conferences. I mean, since 2017, we have more 4 and 5 landfalls, category 4 and 5 landfalls than we did from 1963 to 2016. Staggering. So we've had all the conditions ripe. I mean, you've seen the warm oceans. You've had not much of the way of shear over the Atlantic and La Nina. All these parameters have come together to make it a very busy period of time since 2017.
So let's talk at some of those parameters because they do change over the entire hurricane season. I will say that to begin with, but. What are we seeing right now that's giving us an indication that it's going to be above average besides just the La Nina factor?
Yeah, Stephanie, you really look at what's going on now, and then you project that into the future, especially when you look at, you start looking at August and September and that early October period of time. So you have a situation now that the water's already warm. You have a situation that we're in a La Nina, which means not much activity in the Pacific, but a very active Atlantic, and the projections going through the hurricane season doesn't change that at all. So it reminds me of the last couple of years. So, you look at the forecast for 14 to 21 named storms, and 21 means we run out again. We ran out of names in 2020 and 2021, and we'd rather not do that again, but we got to be prepared just in case.
Yeah, and just to follow that up real quick, we no longer go in the Greek alphabet. We now have a supplementary list of names.
So, Ken, you've been at this a while now at the Hurricane Center. You go back and look at your tenure so far. What is something that's at the top of your list that you want to see changed, whether it be in the message or how we do things?
Yeah, we need to continually increase the usage of social science in what we do, Jim, because, we're getting so much better with the forecast. Look what we've done with the track forecast. I mean, look at Ida, one of the most bold forecasts in Hurricane Center history. We went to almost a major hurricane, and Dan Brown was the one that issued that forecast. He's here today looking at the situation that we might have some rainfall in Florida. So we got to involve more of that because we're getting better. We've cut the intensity forecast in half over the last 3 years. So we're getting better with the physical science. We got to make sure this information is understood. More social science. Perfect forecast doesn't do much good if it's not understood. I want to see more social science in what we do.
Okay, with that said, let's talk about surge forecasting, and how to get that message out to people because the surge affects, I feel like, so many more people sometimes than the wind does with some of these storms.
Yeah, Stephanie, the leading cause of fatalities historically in these tropical systems is from the surge, 50% historically. But I will say, this is an interesting stat. Since 2017, remember we talked about how busy it was, and storm surge, we've had 8 fatalities since 2017. And that's because we started the storm surge watch and warning. We started the inundation mapping. We're talking about surge more now than we ever have. We've lost more people to carbon monoxide poisoning since 2017 than we have from storm surge. And the leading cause of fatalities is the social science. Back to the social science. But inland flooding has been the leading cause of fatality. So, Jim, Stephanie, we got to keep figuring out ways to message that inland flooding because that has been the leading cause of fatality since 2017.
There's been progress, though, which is great to hear.
We have made some progress, and we're going to keep doing that as long as that man right there is at the helm. Ken Graham, always appreciate talking to you. We will see you again, I'm sure, before this season's over, probably on several occasions.
Yeah, he's one of these guys where it's like, we love seeing you, but not really.
Right,
because that means something's going on.
I love to see you in December, and January, and February.
Exactly. All right, we're going to be back with a more detailed forecast coming up.
All right.
Yay, Sandy.
Yeah, so there was our little break from permafrost, and our article doesn't have much left to go anyway. But
no,
I think you guys were having a good talk out there while we had our little break because, we took a break from permafrost, but this one doesn't have much more to go.
I mean, basically, this crater is likely to keep expanding backwards and upwards, eating into the hill until it hits sediments with significantly less ice or bedrock, said Huglius. So that's basically it. So this big thing that you see all these pictures of, it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing, and nothing can stop it, essentially.
Growing.
Until it runs out of permafrost, then it,
Yeah. And, Jen, we have the 2 articles. See, we have the one we talked about the carbon dioxide, but then we have another one that was interesting, and it kind of keeps with what we were, talking about with permafrost. I don't know, what would you like to end the show with? Which one do you think would be most pertinent?
I don't know. You choose, Sandy. But if we need this Mercury one, just ping it on over to me.
All right. I think then maybe we'll just go for the good old neoliberal New York Times, and then
Okay.
we'll talk about the next. We'll talk about the
Yeah. And
significant amounts of mercury next
we
time.
can next time we can save that for next time. But this New York
Yeah.
Times one, we'll probably breeze through it. But the New
Yeah.
York Times has been doing a knock-up job on climate change. They
They
really
do
have.
because they have the budget to hire
Yeah.
the good, the best reporters. I
Mhm.
just, I make my little jokes. I have to. I can't help
Mhm.
it. Because yeah. All right. So go ahead. You take this one.
Okay. Carbon dioxide levels are highest in human history. Think about it, guys. We are living in historic times and
Yeah,
not in
we
a good
are.
way. Not in a good way.
Yeah.
Humans pumped 36 billion tons of the planet warming gas into the atmosphere in 2021, more than in any previous year. It comes from burning oil, gas, and coal, not surprisingly.
Yep.
The amount of planet
Oh,
warming carbon dioxide in the atmosphere broke a record in May, continuing its relentless climb, scientists said Friday. It is now 50% higher than the pre industrial average
Jesus.
before humans began the widespread burning of oil, gas, and coal in the late 19th century. There is more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now than at any time in the last 4 million years,
I bet
National
that's why.
Geographic and Atmospheric Administration officials said. The concentration of the gas reached nearly 421 parts per million in May, the peak for the year, as power plants, vehicles, and farms and other sources around the world continued to pump huge amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
Mm.
Emissions totaled 36.3 billion tons in 2021, the highest level in history. As the amount of carbon dioxide
In history.
increases, the planet keeps warming with effects like increased flooding, more extreme heat, drought, and worsening wildfires that are already being experienced by millions of people worldwide. Average global temperatures are now about 1.1 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Fahrenheit higher than in pre industrial times. Growing carbon dioxide levels are more evidence that countries have made little progress towards the goal set in Paris in 2015 of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the threshold beyond which scientists say the likelihood of catastrophic effects of climate change
Oh,
increases
really?
significantly.
And the New York Times is telling everybody that now.
Yeah. They are a stark reminder that we need to take urgent, serious steps to become a more climate ready nation,
Okay.
Rick Spinnerd, the NOAA administrator, said in a
Bid
statement.
that.
Although carbon dioxide levels dipped somewhat around 2020 during the economic slowdown, that was COVID, right? Caused
Hmm.
by the coronavirus pandemic, there was no effect on the long term trend. Peter Tans, a senior scientist at NOAA's Global Monitoring Laboratory, said the rate of increase in carbon dioxide concentration just kept on going, and it keeps on going for about the same pace as it did for the past decade.
Mm,
Carbon dioxide levels vary throughout the year, increasing as vegetation dies and decays in the
right.
fall and winter, and decreasing in spring and summer as growing plants absorb the gas through photosynthesis. The peak is reached every May, just before plant growth accelerates in the northern hemisphere. Dr. Tans and others at the laboratory calculated the peak concentration this year to be at 420.99, or basically 421
Nine.
parts per
Nine.
million. Nine, number
Nine.
nine, number
I knew,
nine.
I knew you'd catch it.
Yes, well, women of
I
a
knew you
certain
would.
age.
Yeah. Yeah. We're getting punchy, can you tell, guys? Ah.
Based on data from a NOAA weather station atop
Ah.
Mauna Loa volcano in Hawaii. Observations began there in the late 1950s, well, 1958 to be exact, by a Scripps Institute of Oceanography scientist Charles David Keeling, hence the Keeling curve,
Killing curve.
and the long-term record known as the Keeling curve. Scripps scientists still make observations at Mauna Loa under a program run by Dr. Keeling's son, Ralph Keeling. Using that independent data, which is similar to NOAA's, they calculated the concentration at 420.78. Both figures are about 2 parts per million higher than last year's record. This peak is 140 parts per million above the average concentration in the pre-industrial days, which was consistently about 280 parts per million. Those are the good old days, right, guys?
Oh,
280
yeah.
parts per million.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah. Since that time, humans have pumped about 1 trillion tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. To reach the Paris Agreement target of 1.5 degrees Celsius, emissions must reach net zero by 2050, meaning sharp cuts with any remaining emissions balanced out by absorption of carbon dioxide by the oceans and vegetation. Boy. If the
No.
world approached that target, the rate of increase in carbon dioxide levels would slow down and the Keeling curve would flatten out. In your dreams. In your dreams. Let me just check and see. Oh, yeah, we're just about done.
In your
If
dreams.
emissions were completely eliminated, Dr. Tans said, the Keeling curve would start to fall as the oceans and vegetation continued to absorb the existing carbon dioxide from the air. The decline in atmospheric concentration would continue for hundreds of years, although progressively more slowly, he said. At some point, an equilibrium would be reached, he said, but carbon dioxide concentrations in both the atmosphere and the oceans would be higher than in pre-industrial levels and would remain that way for thousands of years. Over such a long time scale, sea levels will rise significantly as polar ice melts and other changes will take place.
Will.
Like, yes, I mean, they're using all this hopeful language and it bugs the
Well, it
what out of
is.
me.
It's the New
Like
York.
I mean, it's good, and then they say, well, then this could happen, and then this could happen. But the fact of the matter is, they're talking about science, and it
Yeah,
is
but
going to
then the
happen.
idiots reading it at home are like, "Oh, it's good. It doesn't matter. Okay, where's give more coffee? Give me the eggs and toast." Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's it, Sandy. We did it.
Yeah,
we
we
did it
did
in an
it.
hour and a
We
half.
did it.
We did
Okay,
it.
can you tell I'm getting completely silly? All right, I have
You are
something
silly.
though. I am silly. All right, I'm shutting us off for a minute, guys, because I do have a little picture, and this is for all of you. The reason life works at all is because not everyone in your tribe is nuts on the same day.
It's so cute.
That was, I thought, the perfect way to
So
end.
cute.
Perfect way to end. And I
So
do
cute.
have a couple of things to read from our people out there. astrologer, climate witness, Ariel with the beautiful voice that, oh my God, I love her CD and I play it all the time. One
love
of the first, yes, we love her. One of the first actions, let me get this up here. One of the first actions we need to do as Doomers is massive protest to decommission every nuclear plant in the U.S., teaching folks why it is necessary. And Ariel, I have to tell you something really quickly. I was listening to the Eco Modernist podcast while I was running around doing whatever, and they are talking about the nuclear reactors of the future and what's going to be built and all this other happy horse shit. So I'm just telling you, I like your idea much better than theirs. And then Gary, probable extinction with 1 million alive instead of 10 billion by 2100. Okay, so there'll be the enclaves that Antonio talks about, you know. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? All right, guys. Well, I just see Stephen Miles Cook had said he wants to, I think it was you that said you want to come to the Great Lakes, and that's where I am. So, you know, you're welcome to visit. Like anybody that's in our family that's safe is welcome to visit. Yes, Jennifer, including you.
Somebody wants to have a cameo. Here she is.
Hi, kitty.
Here's the
Oh, look,
kitty,
there's
kitty,
the kitty. Oh, God, I
kitty.
would never let any of mine in. They're such a pain in the ass. All right. Well, everyone, Dan, Patty, everybody, thank you. Thank you for coming. We hope you enjoyed our informative show. As always, I get informed rereading the stuff that we plan all week for you. And don't forget, like, subscribe, buy us a coffee, and all that good stuff. All that good stuff. All right? All right.
Sounds good, Sandy.
Okay, Jennifer. I'm going to start it, and we are going to say bye-bye. Bye-bye. And I'm looking for this.